The alarm did not sound like an alarm. It sounded like a low hum that pressed against my skull, and I knew before I even opened my eyes that the collection sweep had started early. My name is Ellie Marsh. I was 17 when the Kesh ships settled over our valley and told us they were here to help. They called it resource support. We called it what it was, a slow theft of everything that kept us alive, including our people. I rolled off my mattress and grabbed my jacket. My little brother Daniel was still asleep in the next room, and I had less than 40 minutes before the sweep teams reached our block. Daniel was 11. He was on the list, not because he had done anything wrong, but because he was small and quiet and easy to take. I did not wake him yet. I needed a plan first, and plans do not come easily when your hands are shaking. Our building sat above an old maintenance tunnel, the kind city workers used before the Kesh grounded every vehicle and called our streets restricted. I had spent the last year learning that tunnel the way other kids learned music, because down there, no scanner could find you. The Kesh relied on sound and vibration to track movement, and the tunnels swallowed both. I grabbed the small cutting tool I had modified from an old drone kit, tucked it into my belt, and finally shook Daniel awake. He blinked at me, confused, then scared, because he understood the look on my face faster than I wanted him to. "We do not have time to explain," I told him. "Get dressed. Bring nothing." He listened. He always listened to me, even when he shouldn't have had to. We slipped through the access grate behind our building and dropped into the dark. The tunnel smelled like rust and old rain. Somewhere above us, boots moved in slow, even lines, sweeping the streets block by block. I knew where the holding pen was. I had watched the sweep teams build it 3 days earlier, a fenced enclosure near the old depot where they gathered anyone they marked for transport. If Daniel and I could not avoid the sweep completely, I needed another plan, one that ended with him free and me not caring what happened to me afterward. We moved fast and low, following the tunnel toward the depot. Every few minutes I stopped to listen, counting footsteps overhead, guessing distance the way I had taught myself from months of close calls. At the halfway point, I heard something that made my stomach drop. Voices, not human voices. Low, layered tones that came from a single Kesh guard standing near a side hatch that opened straight into the depot yard. He was young, by their standards. Thin frame, pale gray skin, a data slate glowing in one hand. He had his back to the tunnel grate, checking names off a list, unaware that 2 humans crouched only meters below him. Daniel grabbed my sleeve. His eyes were wide, silently asking what we would do now. I pointed to a side path that curved away from the guard and toward the yard fence. If Daniel crawled along that route, staying low, he could reach the fence gap we had scouted weeks ago without passing anywhere near the guard. "Go," I whispered. "Stay in the shadow line. Do not stop until you reach the fence." He shook his head. He did not want to leave me. I gave him a small push, the kind that says more than words can. He finally moved, disappearing into the dark path, and I turned back toward the guard, because someone needed to make sure he never had a reason to look down. I climbed the short ladder to the hatch slowly, testing every rung for sound. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he would hear it through the metal. He did not. I reached the top just as he leaned over the hatch cover to glance at something below, and for one impossible second, our eyes almost met. I moved before I could think about what moving meant. It was over before I understood it had started. Seconds, maybe less. He made one short sound, not even a full word, and then there was only silence and the soft hum of the depot lights. I did not feel triumphant. I felt like the ground had shifted under me and would never sit still again. But I did not have time to stand there and process it. I climbed back down, sealed the hatch behind me, and ran the path Daniel had taken, praying he had made it through the fence gap. He had. I found him crouched behind a collapsed cart just outside the yard, shaking, waiting for me exactly where I told him to wait. We did not speak. We simply ran, back through the tunnel, back toward the old textile mill where our neighbors had been quietly gathering anyone who slipped free of the sweeps. By the time we reached the mill basement, my hands would not stop trembling. 6 other kids were already there, pulled from the same block, guided out by 2 older boys who had mapped their own escape routes days earlier. Daniel clung to my arm and did not let go for a long time. I thought that would be the end of it. One small escape, in a war too large for any of us to understand. I was wrong. Word moved strangely in an occupied city. Within hours, whispers reached the mill that a cash guard near the depot had gone silent, that his patrol partner found him and reported it up the chain with visible unease. Our resistance contact, a woman named Priya, who ran communications from a hidden relay 2 streets over, brought us a datapad late that evening. She had intercepted a fragment of the Kesh command channel, translated through a program our tech team had built from salvaged equipment. She played it for the room, her voice low. The message, translated roughly, described an unknown presence that left no vibration signature, no scanner trace, no warning of any kind. The Kesh officer speaking sounded rattled, more rattled than I had ever heard one of them sound. He used a phrase that Priya translated as death whisper, a name meant to describe something that gave no sign before it acted. I sat very still when I heard it. Every eye in the room turned to me, because everyone there already knew what had happened near the depot hatch that morning. I did not feel like a hero. I felt like a girl who had done what she had to do to get her brother out, and who would probably spend the rest of her life carrying that morning with her. Over the next 2 days, the Kesh pulled their solo patrols back from 3 sectors near the depot, replacing them with paired guards who stayed close to open ground and avoided tunnels altogether. It was a small shift, barely noticeable to anyone who was not watching closely, but Priya said it meant something. Fear, she said, changes behavior faster than any negotiation ever could. I did not want to be feared. I wanted the sweeps to stop. I wanted Daniel to go back to complaining about homework instead of hiding in basements, and I wanted the ships in the sky to leave the way they had promised they eventually would, though none of us believed that promise anymore. Still, something had changed. People in the mill looked at me differently, not with fear, but with a kind of quiet trust, the sort you give someone who has proven they will move first and explain later. Daniel looked at me the same way too, though he never said much about it. He did not need to. A week later, our cell began mapping the tunnels beneath 2 more depots, using the same tricks I had learned by accident under pressure. Priya asked me to help plan the routes, because I understood better than most how the Kesh listened for movement, and how easily that listening could be avoided if you knew where to step. I said yes, not because I wanted another moment like the one at the hatch, but because saying yes meant fewer families would end up in that basement wondering if their child made it out. The war did not end that week, or the next. It is still going on somewhere beyond these walls, in sectors I have not seen, and streets I do not know. But every tunnel we mapped after that first morning saved someone. Every patrol that pulled back gave another family a little more room to breathe. People still use that name sometimes, quietly, half joking, half serious, when they talk about that first morning near the depot. I never liked it much. It sounds like something bigger than a scared 17-year-old girl trying to save her little brother before breakfast. But I understand why it stuck. Fear does not care about the truth behind an act. It only cares about the silence that came before it, and the absence that came after. I think about that morning more than I let anyone know, not with pride, and not entirely with regret either, but with a steady kind of acceptance, the way you accept a scar that changed the shape of your hand but never stopped it from working. Daniel is safe. That is the only fact I hold on to when the memory gets loud. He is safe, and so are 6 other kids who made it out of that yard because a tunnel swallowed every sound that should have given us away. If that is what it took, then I would step onto that ladder again, without hesitation, even knowing everything it would cost me afterward. Some stories end with celebration. Mine ended with silence, the same silence that gave me my name, and I have learned to live inside it, one quiet morning at a time.